Today on the podcast, I want to share with you my 2025 Maha Kumbh Mela Experience, my first trip to India. It was literally life-changing. So how did this come about? I literally, a few weeks ago, saw a video online somewhere, just showed up like a minute and 30-second video about the Kumbh Mela. I had no idea what this event was, didn't know that it attracted 400 million people. I didn't know that it was the largest spiritual gathering on the planet. I didn't know the history and mythology behind it. I didn't really know anything about it. I saw this video and I literally had such a strong feeling like I need to be there. And I just was like, whoa, okay. So I started looking a little bit into it and I was feeling in that intuition more and more. And I started looking into like, how could I get there? And I have no idea about going to this event. It's massive and I've never been to India before. And so I started looking for a guide. I just said, well, if I'm gonna go, let me talk to somebody who's been there, who understands it and can at least guide me, somebody who's going that I can go with. And so I start asking a lot of my Indian friends around the area, Art of Living, people that I know, people in other states and people from India who live here in the States, and literally nobody that I talked to was going. So I kind of let it go, and one night I had this kind of, again, intuition, that inner voice, God speaking to me. My wife and I and kids were going to go to the beach. This was like a Sunday evening, I think. And this feeling was like, no, go downtown Jacksonville, check out this place called The Portal that I had heard about it but hadn't been to yet, and let's just go see what it's about. So we went there and they were closing, and there was one woman there who was a psychic who was working there, and she came out, she said, oh, I'm with a client right now. I said, oh, we're just walking around checking out the place. And she goes, you know what, if you guys want to come back, I can talk to you. So we went and walked down the river, we came back, and she goes, yeah, I can see you now if you want to have a session. Like, sure, why not? Let's see, she's the real deal. So we sit down, and in the first few minutes, I mean, she is piercing our hearts. My wife just hammering everything she's saying is so true, so spot on. Things that, you know, she hadn't even thought about in many years. There's no way she could have known these things. She was getting, you know, even her uncle's names from spirit and talking about them. And it was just this incredible experience. And when she came around to me and she starts saying these things that I've been thinking about for a long time, about opening a retreat center and a holistic center to help people awaken and heal. And she goes, you're going through a massive transformation right now and a whole reinvention of who you are, and you're a coach and all that. She knew all this stuff, just was sitting with us. She just met us in that moment and she was just hitting every single thing. I'm just smiling the whole time. And then she looks at me, she goes, and you're going to India and you need to go to the Kumbh Mela that's happening right now. And I just got chills and started laughing. And she's like, why, what's so funny? I'm like, I've literally been trying to figure out how to get to this thing over the whole past week. I can show you a bunch of text messages. And then she looks at my wife and she goes, and you need to go with him. It's going to help you both. And I said, yeah, that's amazing. That's what I felt. I need to go to this thing, but I don't know anybody who's going. So trying to figure that out. And she goes, the owner of this place is leaving in a few days. I'll connect you with her and you can talk to her. So I talked to her, and next thing you know, we're booking tickets, we're getting flights, we're planning our trip to India, literally leaving in like 7 or 8 days from that point. Going through New York City to get there, we had issues with our visas. We weren't able to get on our flight. We missed that flight. They weren't going to give us refunds. We couldn't change them. We had to rush visas, so we had them by the next day, but they were only going to come within 36 hours, and we needed them in like 18 hours or less than 20 hours. And it was so amazing because I was praying to God as in meditation. I said, look, I feel like I'm supposed to be at this thing. If we're supposed to be there, like we need visas by 9 a.m. And in my meditation, I got the voice, the clarity, you will have them by 9 a.m. And literally we got an email that next morning, visas approved. We rushed to the airport. We got our flights changed. It was a whole miracle that happened. Long story. Anyway, we ended up on the flight and we finally got to New Delhi. It was 13-hour overnight flight and ended up there the morning of the next day, I believe, in New Delhi. From there, this is the day before the largest day of the whole event, which is January 29th, which attracts the most people in one day. They estimate somewhere between 50 million and 100 million people all around the sacred rivers there, the three rivers where everybody's going to take this sacred ceremonial spiritual dip in the Ganges, really in the confluence of these three rivers where they meet. And so they shut down the whole town, and so we rented some camps, and the people who are going to come pick us up were telling me, we can't even get to you because the whole city's shut down. They're not letting cars. And so I'm like, well, if we have to walk 20 kilometers with all our stuff, I'll do it. This is a pilgrimage, like whatever it takes. And so we get on a short flight from New Delhi to Prayagraj, where Kumbh Mela is happening. And we end up sitting next to a man who lives in Prayagraj, and he says, I can drive you as far as I can drive you, which ends up getting us pretty close. I think probably within 8 kilometers, somewhere between 3 and 5 miles. And so we get out of the car and we start walking, and it's already, so many millions of people coming from all across the country, literally families that had saved their life savings to come and to be at this incredible spiritual gathering. And the streets are full, and the honking, the motorcycles, the rickshaws, the tuk-tuks are just going crazy, and we're just walking through all this. And I'm just smiling the whole time because we made it. We're there, and we're there for the full experience. And we end up walking for probably over 2 hours before we're just like, we've been traveling, flying, dealing with the New York thing, we're tired, hungry, kind of feet are hurting, heavy backpacks, and carrying a bag of clothes that I brought to donate to people there. And so at that point, I saw some young kids, and I thought, all right, these would be perfect, some young men to donate these clothes to. So I go, hey, do you guys want some clothes? And they're like, what is this? How much? I go, no, it's free. I brought it from America. And then before you know it, there's like 20 young men circled around us, and I'm handing out shirts and clothes. And, it was a pretty special event to kind of kick it off that first night. As we're walking along, you see families that are literally laying down to sleep on the side of the kind of makeshift roads that were created for this event. These are people who, saved their whole life savings to be here and traveled on trains across the entire country and walked for miles to be there. This is a true pilgrimage, not just for us, but literally for the hundreds of millions of people that come to this event. And it got cold at night, down to like 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and these families all huddled together, sleeping, with just a blanket or two. And, we had a nice, comfortable canvas tent and a nice bed to sleep in. So I thought, these are the real pilgrims right here. Just come in, they bring some food in their backpack and sleep on the side of the road, and, take the dip at 4 in the morning when it's freezing out. And it was pretty incredible to be a part of that. But as we're there feeling the spiritual energy that's there, it's chaotic. There's so much going on. There's chanting and music and so much talking and honking and noise. But at the same time, there's this palpable, beautiful spiritual energy that's emanating throughout the entire area, because everybody's there for a spiritual purpose. Everybody there is for cleansing, for healing, for releasing of sins, for connecting to God, to awakening spiritually. So the energy that's there, it's not like you're in a place full of a lot of people with all kinds of crazy things going on. Like, they're all there for a positive spiritual reason, and you get to, if you open yourself to that, you can absolutely feel it and embrace it and benefit from it. And so we finally got to our camp that night, and went to sleep. Didn't sleep very much. That was fine. Did my meditation in the morning, and we set off after breakfast on foot, and we walked for probably 11 hours that day, just exploring. Found a perfect place to take a dip in the Ganges, doing a ceremony beforehand, and really got into the energy, the feeling of just letting go, releasing. And that was my whole intention, was releasing all that's no longer serving me, releasing any negative past karma, releasing any negative thoughts or anything that's hindering me from growing mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually to that higher level, that deeper connection, realization with God. And so that was really the whole reason I was there. And in my meditations each morning, I was just asking God, guide me to the right people, the right experiences. It's exactly what happened. It was so powerful. We ended up in the right places at the right time, meeting the right people, and met incredible gurus and sadhus and ascetics and people that really shared some very powerful experiences and energy with us. So after the dip on January 29th, we walked, we explored, we ended up at the Maharishi temple, And sitting in meditation at the Maharishi Temple, I got this really clear insight, download, message from God that was telling me so clearly, it's time for you to elevate to the next level of the work you're doing on the planet. Really, what the message was, it said, time for you to stop your podcast and basically everything you're doing, and when you get back, start teaching meditation. And that for me, it wasn't really a big shock. It was more of a confirmation than anything, because even the year prior, I had felt this strong calling, like I need to really start teaching meditation. I've been practicing meditation and Qigong and transpersonal psychology and hypnotherapy and so many different traditions and lineages, learning from different masters over the last 20 years. And meditation has completely changed my life and health and well-being for the better in every area. And I've had this feeling for quite a while about teaching meditation and teaching online and teaching others. And I've taught little bits of meditation over the years here and there at conferences and things like that, but never fully focused on it as the main thing that I do. And I think I didn't have the confidence, or I just wasn't ready for it yet, even though I knew that was kind of building in me over the years. And this message of clear guidance sitting in meditation was just so powerful and palpable, and it was so freeing. It was like, cut everything and go all in. And I just was like, okay, I'll do it. And I meditated on that in the next few days, and even on the plane and coming back. And it felt absolutely the right thing I need to do. And when God speaks to you like that, trust me, if you listen, everything works out for the better, even if it's unknown, even if it's scary, even if you have no idea what you're going to do, but you just follow that inner guidance. And I mean, the liberation, the freedom you feel, the joy that comes in your life, it only gets better and better. So once I got back, the first guidance that I got in a meditation was teach a meditation every day for 90 days online for free. Just start putting it out there. And then we'll see what happens next. So that's what I'm doing now. I started a channel called Meditation with Nathan, free meditations each day. Each one is basically pulling from these different lineages of experience that have really helped me over the years, and guiding people through these different powerful meditation experiences. And it just flows through me each day. I just sit down, I ask God to guide me, and then what comes through comes through. And so far, so good. But after the 29th, we had just so many incredible experiences. I met this kind of wandering sadhu who I think was more of a fake type of person, right? You have fake and you have real people there. You have everything there, right? And so he put a flower in my hand and he closed my palm, and he was doing all these things, and I opened my palm, and then it was a Rudraksha bead, little bead, a seed from the Rudraksha tree. And I felt like I didn't really see exactly what happened, and we didn't get it on video or anything, and I really felt like it was more of a sleight of hand magic trick. He was asking for money, and then he did this, and I thought that was probably more of a fake experience. Then we were sitting down by the river, and I saw some sadhus sitting down there, and they, dreadlocks and the whole thing. They had some blankets laid out, and they were sitting, and he calls me over and he starts giving me blessings and saying things, and then he pulls sand right in front of me off the ground, and as he rubs it together, black ash falls into my hand, and then he blesses it and tells me to pour it on my hair and things like that. So I went from this most likely a fake experience to a very real experience. There was no sleight of hand magic in that. It was like, pulled the sand, and as he was doing it, was falling black ash into my hand. These sadhus that live in the caves in the Himalayas, basically their whole life practicing meditation, they start to develop these incredible powers, these powers that are innate to all human beings. And as the great sages teach, that when those powers become cultivated, that we don't get attached to them and to even go higher and transcend them, but that they are a natural kind of evolution as we grow closer and closer to God. And so I got to experience some of those powers firsthand by, these incredible beings that were there. So we had some other wonderful experiences that day, and then made it back to our camp, probably 9 o'clock at night, 9:30, had some dinner, tried to go to bed. Again, it's 24/7. There's people in the river constantly, because people are constantly coming 24/7 from their pilgrimage. There's chanting on speakers constantly and music. And so, we didn't sleep much, but I was meditating, first thing in the morning and usually in the afternoon. So I felt energized every day, even though we weren't getting a lot of sleep. But waking up that next morning, again, in my meditation, I'm just asking, guide us, what do we need to do today? And it was find a guide. And today you will meet some truly powerful beings, some saints and sadhus, some very, some important people for your life. And so we did. We went and we found a guide, and that guide, we left like around 10 or 10:30 in the morning. He took us to the other side of the river where we hadn't been yet, and then he took us to go see all the akaras. So we were on the backs of motorcycles, and my wife and I are here together. The kids stayed at home with Grandpa, and we're just embracing this whole experience together, driving through little alleyways and corners and turns, just like how everybody is moving, millions of people all through each other without hitting each other and causing crashes. It's just mind-blowing how it happens, but somehow it happens. And then we finally get dropped off, and so our guide takes us to the akaras, which is basically all these ascetics and sadhus and saints and healers and incredible people that are camping there for the whole 48 days of the Kumbh Mela. And they're taking a dip basically every day, certainly on the most auspicious days. And they're also there, many of them you can go and visit them and ask for blessings and sit with them. Some you can talk to, some you can spend a little time with, some will let you spend more time than others. And some have more powers than others, some are wiser than others. I mean, there's all different levels. And so we just went with intuition, and our guide went with his intuition, we went with ours, and we went to go see some ascetics, some sadhus on that day. And in the first ones that we saw, this first one gave us some really powerful blessings. It was really special. You kind of bow down to him and honor him, and tradition, touch the feet or the legs or the body, and you're connecting to their higher energies. Their energies are being transferred to you, and it's helping cleanse you and awaken your higher spiritual capacity. And so that was a really beautiful experience initially. Typically you're going to give them something. They're not attached to money, they're not charging for services or things like that. If you donate, you donate. It's just kind of a generous, kind thing that you do, but usually you leave them something. And then we walked out. We didn't even see this one sadhu when we went in, who was all covered in white ash. He was a younger one, but he was at the very front, and so our guide said he's like very well respected there, one of the more powerful sadhus who was there. And very often he just shoos people away. He doesn't see very many people, but we acknowledge him and he acknowledged us, so we were able to go see him. And as we were sitting there receiving blessings, and he started taking feathers over us and kind of chanting some words and sending energy. I could feel his energy just pulsate vibrate throughout my entire body, just this tingling and this high vibration energy through my whole body, and just kind of this feeling of joy and bliss come over me. Then he's giving blessings to my wife, and our guide's talking with him, he's talking with us, sharing us some things. And after maybe a few minutes with him, then we leave. We're getting ready to leave, and then he acknowledges us. We acknowledge him. Our guide says, oh, he actually wants to give you something. And so he called us back over, and then he does this whole blessing and ceremony. He takes a Rudraksha bead and ash and a coin and does this whole ceremony, gives it to us, tells us what to do with it when we get home, to basically bless our home and our family. And so, and the whole ceremony for doing that. So we did that, and it was going above the front door, and just this whole beautiful thing. And gave us ash and told us to put it on our, third eye, our forehead, and gave to my wife. And we just had this whole other additional experience with him. And then as we walked away, our guide was telling us, he says, I've brought many people here to see him. Some of them are just shooed away. Some he does a little blessing for them, but he said for some reason, I've never seen him do all this for anybody before. This was really, really special what he did for you guys. He's never seen that kind of blessings and any of that for anybody has ever brought to him. So, obviously we felt pretty grateful for that.
So what happened with this Naga Sadhu? What did you say?
Actually, the main gate of Ahana Khada and the first person, so very important person. His age very less, but he's very knowledgeable, very powerful people.
Yeah.
His post is very big.
I could feel his energy when he was blessing me, just very
and
powerful.
This kind, otherwise they say go out, not come inside.
He said,
but he say you come here, sit here, and he very first time I look this kind of treatment he did.
And then we walked on our way, and we went and saw some other sadhus, and again had some powerful blessings and experiences, and then ended up later in the day sitting with this Guruji. He has an ashram in Vrindavan, and we sit with him, and I just felt like I'd known him probably for many past lives. We connected and bonded deeply, and it was funny because before the trip, I had set in my mind, I told God, look, I'm ready for my next teacher, to really take me to that next level, that higher level. Whoever that is, if I meet him in India or wherever, let me know, guide me to them. I'm not attached, but ready. And we're sitting there talking to him, and we just have this connection. He starts sharing with me some things to, awaken the Kundalini and to heighten my practice to the next level. And then we're talking, 15, 20 minutes. He shares some chai with us and some food. And our guide says, I think he's your guru. He should be your guru. And I started laughing, and I'm like, okay, I'm interested, open to it. And he actually speaks English, and he has, apparently he's a very well-respected, enlightened Guruji who's there, but very humble, just kind of in his own little tent and, not really involved out in anything. And our guide said, he actually has a huge ashram. He's a really big guru. It was really actually interesting to see you guys hugging and sitting and talking like friends. He's like, I've never seen that with somebody with him before. And so, that was a really cool experience. And then I wanted to find a guru to send blessings to my dad and my kids back at home. So I was able to get them on FaceTime. And so our guide took us to one of the more well-respected, well-known gurus of all the Akaras there. And he had his hand up like this. And I said, well, why is his arm up like this? His fingernails had grown super long. And he said he's had his arm up like that for 5 years. I said, why? He said, he never puts it down. Not to drive, not to eat, sleep, nothing. It's always up. He said because he's made a commitment. He's made a commitment to helping resolve some issues with the Hindu religion that need to be resolved. And so he said he will hold his arm up like that until it gets resolved. I thought, oh my gosh, now that's commitment. If you want to see somebody committed to a mission, committed to the Dharma, committed to something in life, that is true commitment. Never put your arm down. Just hold it for like 10 minutes and see what happens. And I found out that he had actually had another commitment like that previously where he stood and he would not sit down or lay down. For 10 years, he stood. Even if he sleep, he would stand. He would just put his arms like this over a desk or something, but he stood. And for 10 years until that thing got solved and resolved. So, and this guy was like one of the more famous ones. There was hundreds. As we sat with him, we were very fortunate, blessed to be able to sit with him for, 20 minutes and talk with him about the incident that happened there, the trampling that happened. People were accidentally killed, and like that whole incident and how they think that was actually staged by opposing political rivals, and the whole story behind that. But, we sat with him for about 20 minutes. I literally saw hundreds and hundreds of people come in, and they received his darshan and touched his feet, and were so, honored and blessed just to get a glimpse with him, just 5 seconds with him. And people really, really respected him. So that was really special to sit with him. And then I got my family on the phone, and he sent them some blessings. And then, I looked at my family, they're like, this was right before they were going to school, and they're just like kind of shocked and stunned, like, what is going on? And I said, I'll tell you about it later, and then hung up. And so that was a really special way to end that day. And the last day we were there, we actually got up early in the morning and went and took another dip in the Sangam. Well, really in the river that was right in front of our camp. And it was really special because it was so foggy and so mysterious, and it was just a really beautiful morning experience. It was cold, but actually when we went and took the dip in the river, the water was warmer than it was cold outside, so it actually felt good, and doing some of the ceremony with it, and we ended up having a really beautiful experience, dipping in the river that day. So aside from the little mishap in New York, and really the challenging me, I think is what it was like, are you really prepared for this? Do you really want to go? It was really funny too, because I actually had an opportunity to go be on a podcast, which would have been that second to last day, which I didn't know anything about it. This was like a week before, and so I would have had to change flights and go be on a really big podcast and be interviewed. And as I was sitting there thinking on that ahead of time, it was like, okay, do you want to go there and do that, or do you want to be fully immersed in this spiritual experience? And it was just, no, don't be distracted and go get on podcasts and things like that. Be fully immersed in it. So I said, no, sorry, can't do it. And that was the best decision, because had I said yes to that and not allowed myself to fully immerse, we would have missed that whole day with all the gurus and sadhus and ascetics and all those incredible experiences and blessings that we received. So aside from being stuck in New York for an extra day and all of that, it was like I felt like I was being challenged to say, do you really want this? Are you really committed to this? Is this path you're ready for? Because we had an opportunity right there to say, to stop, get upset, and then not move forward with rushing the visas and all of that. And we never would have made that plane, because we had to rush to the airport. We made it by the last minute. They rushed us to the front of the line. Like, this whole thing happened. They switched our seats. You know, they didn't charge us these ridiculous fees that the one lady said that they had to, or she actually said, we cannot even downgrade you. You guys cannot get on this flight. And it was miracle after miracle after miracle that allowed us to get on. But it was that constant prayer to God, if we're meant to be there, then make this happen. If we're not, I let it go. But you know what? I feel like in my heart we need to be there. So, you know, I'm going to take consistent action. Every day, those 2.5 days, like consistent action, call who I need to do, talk to who I need to do, stay positive, stay calm. Like, yeah, it could have been very, very stressful. We're going back and forth from the airport, missing our flights. They're saying there's no refunds. You can't change your flights. Oh, there's no seats, so you don't have visas. Like, constantly, like roadblock. But it was a test, and you get tested in life. And you get tested. Do you really want this thing that you're being called towards? Is it what you're willing to drop? What are you willing to drop to go to that higher level? And I said, look, I'll walk 20 kilometers. I'll, lose our rides. I'll lose our money. I'll downgrade our seats. Like, whatever it takes, if this is for my highest good, I'm willing to let go. And the amazing thing, once I let go and then continue taking action, they actually found us 2 seats in the premium seating and put us on and rushed us to the front. And the whole thing, when everything up to that point was like, no. You let go of everything, stay focused. And then it was yes, all the way through the entire experience. So there's more that happened, but that is the recap. I have to say, it literally has been completely life-changing, because as I got back, my whole life is changing now. Really dedicating myself to teaching meditation, dropping a whole bunch of other things that I've been working on, and just following that inner guidance, that voice from God, and listening to that every single day, and being in that energy. It was truly transformational. If you ever have a chance to go to the Kumbh Mela and you're really being called towards it, go with that open mind, that deep connection to God, that reverence, that listening to that intuition, and go for the higher reasons, your own higher reasons, and whatever happens is meant to happen. But for me, it's been life-changing, and if you do ever go, I hope it's life-changing for you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I wish you so much health and happiness. Be well.